Hello and welcome to another episode with Gardening for Beginners. In this episode, we're going to talk about why it's important that the flowers of your vegetable varieties get pollinated, how to identify the male and female flowers, as well as a few tips on how to ensure they are successfully pollinated. We're going to go step by step through each aspect of this video, so don't worry. It's easier than it sounds, and you'll be an expert before you know it. So first and foremost, why is it important to ensure the flowers on your plants in your vegetable garden get pollinated? The simple answer is that all plants require pollination in order to create fruit, vegetables, and seeds. Flowers that don't get pollinated will simply wither and die off, usually within a day or two. So it's important to keep an eye on your garden and be aware of which plants are flowering, as well as which ones need specific types of pollination. That leads us to the next topic. Some plants need help pollinating from either us or other pollinators, while others can self-pollinate. Cucumbers, melons, pumpkins, and squash are examples of plants that need a little help. They grow both male and female flowers, and those flowers need help because males need to transfer pollen from their stamen to the pistil located on the separate female flower. Plants like peppers, tomatoes, okra, green beans, and peas are self-pollinating because their flowers possess both a stamen and a pistil. While self-pollinators can typically handle the job on their own, there are also little things you can do to ensure successful self-pollination, which we'll get into next. Nature intends our plants to get pollinated via pollinating insects and wind, but a little help from us along the way won't hurt as well. Wind isn't always the most predictable event to rely on, so I don't. Bees and wasps are some well-known pollinators, but did you also know that ants do a great job pollinating as well? Last year, I had 3 cucumber plants that had a significant number of ants as roommates. They did great together. The ants moved from flower to flower as they went about their daily tasks, and those 3 plants had some of the best fruit production I've ever had. I, of course, had to keep an eye out for aphids, but it was a small price to pay for the ants' welcome assistance. So outside of natural pollinators, what can we do as gardeners to help as well? My favorite approach is to hand pollinate with a hobby paintbrush. I got a set of 6 of these at the store for about $3. It's pretty straightforward. All you do is move the brush around the male flower and then repeat the process on a female flower. So how do you differentiate between male and female flowers? The male flower will be just that. It'll look like a regular flower, but the female flower is the real star of the show. She's going to look like the male flower, but at the base of the flower, you'll see a miniature version of the fruit you're trying to grow. So you're looking for a miniature version of a cucumber, melon, squash, etc. You'll know you have some pollen because the tip of the brush will have some small bits of dust the same color as the center of the flower. And as I mentioned earlier, just repeat the motion around the center of the female flower. Hey, look at that! It looks like this season's cucumbers have ant roommates too. The most common way I've seen people hand pollinate is by removing the male flower and pressing it to a female flower. I don't like using this process for a couple of reasons. First off, I like to leave my flowers on the plant for other pollinators that may come by because I want them to come back later. I also don't have as much visual confirmation that I got any pollen to the female flower the same way I do with a hobby paintbrush. Both ways are effective. This is just my personal preference and works well with my gardening playstyle. There are other folks that like to use a Q-tip. I don't like using them because the cotton on the end sometimes gets frizzy, which can cause problems ensuring you know where the pollen is, as well as transferring it to the female flower. As you can see here, they can also be a little damaging to the flower. They also aren't reusable, and I don't use them for personal hygiene either, so I don't really have ready access to them. So what can we do for our self-pollinating plants? As stated earlier, the reason they can self-pollinate is because each flower has its own stamen and pistil, so very little needs to be done for pollen to successfully transfer from one to the other. Because of this, believe it or not, just brushing up against them can help them self-pollinate. My preference is to give them a little shake. I think all of my self-pollinating plants are staked in the ground in one form or fashion, so as I'm going about my gardening duties, I give each stake a little shake each day, and it seems to be working. They don't need much, just a little jiggle, and you've helped get that pollen from point A to point B. Well folks, that's all there is to pollinating your flowers by hand. I hope our advice has helped you learn a little something about our green leafy friends. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button on it and consider subscribing to our channel. And if you have questions about what you've seen or have advice that helps you hand pollinate your plants, please comment below. Thank you for watching and happy gardening.